The Power of Moments by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. Picture a high school in Houston, Texas. Most of the students come from families scraping by, where graduating high school would already be breaking new ground, let alone dreaming about college. Now here's where it gets interesting. It's signing day at this school. But we're not talking about the star quarterback with scholarship offers or the basketball player everyone's fighting over. This signing day? It's for every single graduating senior. One by one, they walk onto a stage in this massive arena. 5,000 people are watching. Families, teachers, every student from 6th grade up. The energy is electric. A boy steps up to the microphone. His voice is shaking, but you can hear the pride breaking through. "My name is Eddie Zapata," he announces, "and in the fall I will be attending Vanderbilt University." The place explodes with cheers. Then Myra Valle takes her turn. Years ago, as a 6th grader sitting in those arena seats, she watched this exact ceremony unfold. She remembers thinking to herself, "That could be me someday. No one in my family has ever gone to college, but I want to stand on that stage." And now, after years of work, here she is. She breaks into this enormous smile and announces, "This fall, I will be attending Connecticut College." The crowd goes wild all over again. Here's the thing, though. This incredible moment didn't just happen by accident. It was designed. Two educators, Chris Barbick and Donald Kamens, were sitting in a pub one night, half watching ESPN celebrate college football signings. Suddenly it hit them. Why do we make such a huge deal about athletics, but we have nothing like this for academics? Right there, they decided to create something special, a defining moment. And that brings us to the heart of The Power of Moments, this remarkable book by brothers Chip and Dan Heath. For over 20 years, the Heath brothers have been breaking down complex ideas in books like Made to Stick and Switch. Now they're tackling one of the most fascinating questions about being human. Why do certain brief experiences completely transform us, while most of our days just blur together and disappear? We all have these moments, right? The teacher who saw something in you before you saw it yourself, a sudden loss that flipped your perspective upside down, that random encounter with someone who became the love of your life. Most of us chalk these up to luck or fate. But what if they're not? What if we could actually create these moments on purpose? That's the bold promise here. This book offers a blueprint for creating more of the experiences that actually matter. It teaches us how to stop being passengers in our own lives and become the architects of our most cherished memories. So today, we're diving into that blueprint. We'll discover why our brains latch onto peaks and forget the ordinary stuff, and how we can use that knowledge to build mountains in the flatlands of everyday life. Think back to your last vacation for a second. What actually sticks in your mind? Let's say you took the family to Disney World. The morning was chaos trying to get everyone out of the hotel. You rode It's a Small World, which was okay, I guess. But then Space Mountain? Absolutely incredible. 10 out of 10. Lunch was fine, but then you stood in line for 45 minutes in brutal Florida heat, which was pretty miserable. On your way out, though, you bought those adorable mouse ear hats for the kids, and the photo you snapped was perfect. Now, weeks later, when someone asks how Disney was, what do you tell them? Here's the fascinating part. You don't average out all those moments, the good, the bad, and the whatever. Instead, psychologists have discovered you'll remember two things with crystal clarity: the peak of the day riding Space Mountain, and how the day ended those cute hats, and the perfect photo. Everything else just kind of fades away. This is called the peak end rule. Our brains don't record our lives like some continuous video camera. Instead, they take snapshots of the most intense moments, the highest peaks and lowest valleys, plus that final moment. And we tend to ignore how long an experience actually lasted, which researchers call duration neglect. To prove this, scientists ran this wickedly clever experiment. They had people stick their hands in painfully cold water, 57 degrees, for 60 seconds. Brutal. Then they had them do it again, but for 90 seconds this time. Here's the twist. For those last 30 seconds, the water warmed up by 2 degrees. Still uncomfortable, but noticeably less awful. When asked which trial they'd rather repeat, 69% chose the longer one. Think about that. They preferred 90 seconds of pain over 60 seconds of pain, simply because the longer version had a slightly better ending. The worst moment was the same in both, but that ending made all the difference. This simple insight is actually profound. It tells us our lives aren't the sum of all our minutes. They're the collection of our most memorable moments. And here's the problem. Most of our lives are, well, pretty flat. We're living on this vast plane of routine. Days blur into each other. A year passes, and we're left with basically nothing distinct to hold on to. The authors argue this is a massive missed opportunity. We're so obsessed with fixing problems and smoothing out bumps that we forget to build peaks. But it's the peaks we remember. Great experiences, they say, are mostly forgettable and occasionally remarkable. The secret isn't making every moment remarkable. It's intentionally creating a few that are. So where do we look for these opportunities? The Heath brothers tell us to become moment spotters and pay special attention to 3 situations: transitions, milestones, and pits. First up, transitions. These are the natural turning points: graduating, getting married, starting a new job. Many cultures have powerful rituals for these, like bar mitzvahs or quinceañeras, marking the shift from childhood to adulthood. But in modern life, so many transitions go completely unmarked, which creates this weird anxiety. We don't know how to act because the lines are blurry. Consider the first day at a new job. For most people, it's kind of awful. The receptionist isn't expecting you, your computer isn't set up, and someone hands you an ethics manual to read for 3 hours. It's a huge, wasted opportunity. Now contrast that with the first day experience at John Deere. Before you even start, a John Deere friend emails you helpful tips. When you arrive, there's a screen in the lobby welcoming you by name. At your desk, there's a banner announcing your arrival, a beautiful photo on your monitor saying welcome to the most important work you'll ever do, and an email from the CEO waiting for you. You leave that first day thinking, I belong here, this work matters, and I matter to them. They took a moment of transition and transformed it into a peak. Next, we should look for milestones. These are significant achievements along the journey. We're naturally good at celebrating big ones, 40th birthdays, 25th anniversaries, but we often miss chances to create smaller, more frequent milestones that can be just as motivating. Think about the wildly successful Couch to 5K program. The goal isn't just start jogging, which is vague and kind of intimidating. The goal is to run a 5K race 9 weeks from now. The genius is how it breaks that journey into small, achievable victories. Week 1, you're only jogging for 60 seconds at a time. Each workout you complete is a milestone. Each week you finish is a milestone. The program multiplies these moments of pride, making you feel successful long before you cross any finish line. Compare this to a typical corporate goal like increase market share to 23%. It's just a number, not a destination. There's no inherent pride in it. The authors suggest redesigning our goals to be more like video games, with levels to conquer and even a boss battle at the end. Instead of learn Spanish, Why not set level 1 as order a full meal in Spanish at a restaurant, and the boss battle as spend a weekend in a Spanish-speaking city using only Spanish? Suddenly, the journey is filled with motivating milestones. Finally, we need to pay attention to pits. These are negative defining moments, hardship, pain, or failure. Our first instinct is to fill these pits, to just make the pain go away. But the most forward-thinking people and organizations realize that a pit is actually an opportunity to create a peak. Think about service failures. One study found that almost a quarter of the most positive customer service experiences actually started as failures. Lost reservations, delayed flights, wrong orders. When employees handle these well, they don't just fix the problem, they transform a negative moment into a positive one. The most powerful story comes from Doug Dietz, a designer at General Electric who spent 2 years working on a new MRI machine. He was incredibly proud of his creation, but when he saw it installed in a hospital for the first time, his pride turned to horror. He watched a little girl crying, terrified to enter the MRI room. Through her eyes, he suddenly saw his machine for what it really was: a sterile, intimidating brick with a hole in it, in a dimly lit room with crime scene tape on the floor. He learned that 80% of children had to be sedated just to get through the scan. It broke his heart. He realized he'd been focused on the technology, not the experience. So he set out on a new mission: redesign the experience of getting an MRI. He and his team turned that scary machine into an adventure. One room became a pirate adventure, where kids walked the plank to get onto the scanner, which was now a pirate ship. Another became a jungle adventure, where the MRI table was a canoe floating through a jungle, and kids were told to hold still so they wouldn't tip over. The results were dramatic. Sedation rates dropped from 80% to nearly zero in some cases. And one day, after a little girl finished her scan, she tugged on her mom's shirt and asked, "Can we come back tomorrow?" Doug Dietz had taken one of the deepest pits in a child's medical journey and transformed it into a peak. So once we've spotted an opportunity, whether it's a transition, milestone, or pit, how do we actually craft a defining moment? The Heath brothers discovered that defining moments are built from 4 key elements. A moment doesn't need all 4, but the more it has, the more powerful it becomes. They are elevation, pride, insight, and connection. Let's start with elevation. Moments of elevation rise above the everyday. They break the script of our normal routines. To create them, the authors give us a simple 3-part recipe: boost sensory appeal, raise the stakes, and break the script. Boosting sensory appeal means turning up the volume on reality. Think of a wedding, with flowers everywhere, music playing, beautiful clothes. Raising the stakes adds productive pressure: a competition, a performance, a deadline. It's those pre-game jitters or the thrill of stepping onto a stage. But the most potent ingredient is breaking the script. This means defying expectations in a delightful way. The perfect example is the story of Joshi the giraffe. A family was staying at a Ritz-Carlton when their young son lost his beloved stuffed giraffe, Joshi. The father, trying to calm his son, told a little white lie: "Joshi is fine. He's just taking an extra long vacation at the resort." Later, the hotel called to say they'd found Joshi. The father explained his story and asked if they could possibly take one picture of Joshi by the pool to prove he was on vacation. A few days later, a package arrived. Inside was Joshi, along with a binder full of photos. Joshi lounging by the pool, Joshi getting a massage at the spa with cucumber slices over his eyes. Joshi even monitoring the security cameras in the control room. The hotel didn't just return a lost toy. They broke the script. They created a moment of strategic surprise so magical that the story went viral. This is elevation. The second element is pride. These are moments that capture us at our best: achievement, courage, or recognition. One of the simplest ways to create pride is through recognition. And it's something we dramatically underinvest in. One study found that while more than 80% of supervisors claim they frequently express appreciation to employees, less than 20% of employees agree. That's the recognition gap. Effective recognition isn't about generic Employee of the Month plaques. It's about being personal and specific. It's about showing someone you saw what they did and you valued it. The authors share this heartbreaking and then heartwarming story about a young girl named Kira Sloop. In 6th grade, a cruel chorus teacher singled her out in front of the entire class and told her that her voice was different and didn't blend in. The humiliation was so profound, she stopped singing for 2 years. Then, at a summer camp, a new teacher asked her to stay after class. The teacher, this lovely flower child type, sat with her at the piano, and they sang together for an hour. Afterwards, the teacher took Kira's face in her hands, looked her in the eyes, and said, "You have a distinctive, expressive, and beautiful voice. You could have been the love child of Bob Dylan and Joan Baez." Kira said she felt like she'd shed a ton of weight. "I was on top of the world." That single moment of recognition didn't just restore her confidence. It changed her life. We can also create moments of pride by practicing courage. Courage, as Mark Twain said, isn't the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. The book tells the incredible story of the Nashville sit-ins during the Civil Rights Movement. Young black students, led by activists like John Lewis and Diane Nash, sat at whites-only lunch counters to protest segregation. They faced insults, violence, and arrest with unwavering discipline and peace. What's less known is that their courage was rehearsed. In workshops led by Minister James Lawson, they practiced. Other students would role-play as angry white mobs, blowing smoke in their faces, yelling racial slurs, even shoving them. They practiced how to protect themselves, how not to retaliate, and how to remain calm under extreme pressure. They didn't just hope for courage, they built it. They practiced it until it became part of them. The third element is insight. These are moments that rewire our understanding of ourselves or the world. They're the aha moments, the epiphanies that can change our lives in an instant. While these often seem to happen by chance, the Heath brothers show us how we can engineer them by getting people to trip over the truth. This means creating an experience where people discover the truth themselves, in a way that's compressed in time and has emotional impact. The most shocking example is the story of community-led total sanitation, a program designed to stop open defecation in rural villages, which causes deadly diseases. For years, aid organizations thought the solution was building toilets, but people often wouldn't use them. Dr. Kamal Carr realized it wasn't a hardware problem. It was behavioral. So instead of giving a lecture on germs, a facilitator leads the villagers on a transect walk through areas where people defecate. He asks them to map their village in the dirt, then use yellow chalk to mark all the places where there's human waste. The map quickly becomes covered in yellow. Then comes the ignition moment. The facilitator takes a glass of water, plucks a single hair from his head, dips it into feces, and swirls the hair in the water. He offers the glass to the villagers. They recoil in disgust. "Why not drink?" he asks. "Because it has shit in it," they yell. How many legs does a fly have? He asks. 6. Do flies pick up more or less shit than my hair? More. Do you see flies on your food? Yes. Then what are you eating? The truth is inescapable, and it hits them like a physical blow. They've been eating each other's shit. That single, horrifying moment of insight does what years of education and aid could not. The villagers are instantly motivated to change, not because someone told them to, but because they tripped over a truth they could no longer ignore. We can also spark insight for ourselves by stretching. This means placing ourselves in situations that expose us to the risk of failure. Because it's through action, not just reflection, that we discover who we are and what we're capable of. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx and the world's youngest self-made female billionaire, learned this early. When she was growing up, her father would ask her and her brother at the dinner table every week, "What did you guys fail at this week?" If they had nothing to report, he'd be disappointed. His goal was to redefine failure for them, not as a bad outcome, but as a lack of trying. He was teaching them to stretch, to normalize failure, and to build the resilience that would one day allow his daughter to endure countless rejections on her way to building a billion-dollar company. The final element is connection. These are moments that deepen our relationships. They're strengthened because we share them with others. For groups, moments of connection are forged through shared meaning. The authors tell the story of Sharp Healthcare, a hospital system that transformed its patient experience. The change began with a single, synchronized moment, an all-staff assembly, where they brought all 12,000 employees together in a convention center. By bringing everyone together physically at the same time, they sent a powerful message. We're in this together. This is important. We are one team. For individuals, moments of connection deepen through a powerful psychological principle called responsiveness. This isn't about grand gestures. It's about demonstrating 3 things: understanding, I see you and I get you; validation, I respect you for who you are; and caring, I am here for you. The most moving example is the story of Stanton Elementary. Once considered one of the worst schools in the country, the relationship between teachers and parents was broken, poisoned by years of mistrust. Teachers thought parents didn't care. Parents thought teachers were just collecting a paycheck. The school implemented a new program, home visits. But these weren't traditional parent-teacher conferences. Teachers were forbidden from bringing any papers or agendas. Their only job was to listen. They asked parents 4 simple questions. Tell me about your child's experiences in school. Tell me about yours. Tell me your hopes and dreams for your child's future. What do you want your child to be someday? And finally, what do I need to do to help your child learn more effectively? For many parents, it was the first time anyone from a school had ever asked about their dreams for their children. That single 1-hour visit transformed the relationship. Trust was built. At the school's back-to-school night, where only 25 parents had shown up the previous year, this year, more than 250 came. The school went from chaos to order almost overnight. That 1 hour of pure, intentional responsiveness created a moment of connection that rippled throughout the entire school year. It proved that relationships don't just deepen with the slow passage of time. They can change in an instant, if we create the right kind of moment. As we wrap up our journey through the power of moments, the central message echoes with a simple, profound truth. Our lives are measured in moments. We spend so much time and energy trying to fix what's wrong, to smooth out the rough edges, to get the kinks out of the system. We strive for a life that's consistently good, which often results in a life that's consistently fine. But as the authors so wisely point out, in our quest to eliminate the pits, we forget to build the peaks. And it's the peaks that give our lives texture, meaning, and joy. For someone your age, standing at the threshold of so many new beginnings, this idea is especially powerful. You're living in what psychologists call the reminiscence bump, that period between roughly ages 15 and 30, when a disproportionate number of our life's most vivid memories are formed. It's a time of firsts: first love, first job, first time living away from home. Life is naturally full of peaks right now. But as life goes on, routine inevitably sets in. The firsts become fewer and farther between. Time seems to speed up because days start looking the same. This book, then, is more than just a collection of fascinating stories. It's a manual for how to fight back against that flatness. It's a guide to ensuring your life doesn't just become a blur of comfortable routines, but a mountain range of extraordinary experiences. The beauty of the Heath brothers' framework is its practicality. Creating defining moments doesn't always require grand gestures or huge budgets. It requires thoughtfulness. It requires intention. So how can you start applying these ideas today? Here are 3 simple actions you can take this week. First, practice the art of recognition. Find one person in your life: a friend who helped you with a tough assignment, a parent who always supports you, a teacher who makes class interesting, and recognize them. But don't just say thanks. Make it a moment. Be specific. Tell them exactly what they did and, more importantly, how it made you feel. Write it in a note. Say it face to face. As we saw with Kira Sloop, a few heartfelt words can change someone's world. Second, plan a Saturday surprise. Look at your upcoming weekend. It probably has a script. Sleep in, do some homework, hang out with friends, watch a show. This week, break that script. Intentionally inject a moment of elevation. It doesn't have to be epic. Go to a part of your town you've never explored. Cook a meal you've never tried before. Do something small, unexpected, and delightful. Surprise yourself. Third, deepen a connection. Next time you're talking with a friend or family member, gently push past the small talk. Ask a better question. Instead of just, "How was your day?" try something inspired by Art Aaron's research, like, "What would a perfect day look like for you?" Or take a small risk and share something a little more vulnerable about yourself. As the book shows, responsiveness starts a cycle. A small offering of trust can unlock a much deeper bond. Ultimately, what Chip and Dan Heath have given us is a profound sense of agency. They remind us we don't have to wait for life to hand us defining moments. We can create them. We can be the ones who turn a first day on the job into an unforgettable welcome. We can be the ones who help a child see an MRI machine as a spaceship. We can be the ones who notice the courage and contribution in others. We can be the authors of the moments that make a life. That was our deep dive into the power of moments by Chip and Dan Heath. We've explored the highlights today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you hold the book in your hands. It's in the quiet moments when a particular story or simple phrase lands in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has struck a chord, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see your life and the moments that make it up. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to Billionaire's Bookshelf. It helps our community grow and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.